defense attorney, Ms. Kaplan.
I'm the witness.
The court.
I'm counsel for the defense, Ms. Davis.
For the record, roughly how many?
I would say probably over 1,000.
Okay, have you personally ever arrested any people in regard to gang crimes?
Yes, ma'am.
About how many?
Just in my time with the gang unit, probably 600.
In addition to that, have you also talked to various gang members in order to find out the lifestyle, whether they claim gang membership and other things about the gang community?
I have had well over 2,000 gang contacts.
All right. In addition to that, have you ever testified as a gang expert in court?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
8 other times.
All right. Based on your gang experience, can you please define for the judge what a criminal street gang is?
A criminal street gang is 3 or more members associating on a regular basis who claim a certain gang or who go under a certain name, a sign or symbol, and who engage in a pattern of criminal activity.
Now, sir, which pattern of criminal activity is that you are aware of?
There is a list of several different things that fall under the definition of criminal street gang activity in the Penal Code.
And are you familiar with the gang called West Coast Knights?
I am.
Can you tell us if that's a criminal street gang?
It is.
And can you tell us if you recognize anybody who's seated in the court that is a member of that West Coast Knights gang?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Lopez.
Objection, no foundation. Move to strike.
Overruled. Motion denied.
At some point in time prior to this offense of July 2, 1997, had you ever had any opportunity to speak to Mr. Lopez, the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, on how many occasions?
Hundreds of times.
Objection, the answer is not specific.
Well, Ms. Davis, I don't think that is a proper objection, but I will sustain it and ask the witness to please be as specific as possible in answering the questions.
I would say probably 200 times.
Of those 200 times, have you ever talked to him about any involvement in the West Coast Knights gang?
Yes, ma'am. We have proof of him openly claiming membership. We have photographs that he willingly posed for of him with his gang.
Objection. The word willingly is hearsay. There is no personal knowledge foundation there. It is a conclusion.
Just a moment. Perhaps I don't understand the objection, Ms. Davis. Obviously, you have a right to cross-examine as to why he formed this opinion. But in what respect do you think there is no foundation?
No personal knowledge about the circumstances of the photographs, for instance.
Because he said we have proof instead of this officer personally? Is that why?
Yes, that's it.
All right, motion to strike is granted.
Thank you.
Lack of foundation.
Have you ever personally talked to him wherein he claimed West Coast Knights?
He has claimed West Coast Knights to me, yes.
Have you ever been around where he has been photographed as a member of West Coast Knights?
Yes.
On how many occasions?
At least once that I remember for sure.
Let's talk about, well, let me ask you this. At the time of July 2, 1997, do you have an opinion as to if he was in a criminal street gang?
What was the date again?
July 2, 1997.
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that opinion?
He is definitely a member of West Coast Knights.
Does the defendant go by any nickname or moniker?
Yes, ma'am. His moniker is the name Bulldog.
Let's talk about July 1997. At some point in time on July 3, 1997, did you have an opportunity to speak to a Mr. Castro and his girlfriend, the alleged victims of an assault?
I did.
Let's talk about Mr. Castro first. Where was it you spoke to him?
At his residence.
And when you spoke to him, did he tell you anything about an event that occurred on July 2, 1997 in the city of Long Beach?
That's correct.
Let's talk about that.
I am going to object, Your Honor. Lack of foundation. The basis for my objection is that I believe Mr. Castro speaks only Spanish, and I would be objecting to the lack of foundation that the officer spoke to him.
Sustained.
Double hearsay also.
Well, it is sustained on lack of foundation.
At some point in time, did someone ever interpret the Spanish language to Mr. Castro?
Yes, his girlfriend did.
His girlfriend. Would that be Jill Parks?
That's right.
In doing that, did you then ask your question to Ms. Parks, who then translated it into some other language which was relayed to the victim?
Mr. Castro speaks English well enough to basically get across what you want.
Objection, non-responsive. Move to strike.
Overruled. Motion denied.
I can't understand him enough to get what he says to me. We just use the girlfriend.
Objection, no question pending.
Sustained.
Well, Your Honor, it is a conclusion.
Sustained on the grounds that there is no question pending.
What else did you want to say?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Sustained.
Had you ever spoken to the victims on any prior occasions?
Yes,
Now, during those occasions, did you speak to him in English?
I did.
Okay, did he appear to understand you in English?
Yes.
On this occasion, did it appear to you that he was understanding what you had to say?
Yes.
Okay, what did he tell you regarding July 2, 1997?
Objection, Your Honor, it is double hearsay.
I don't think that calls for double hearsay. As I understood the question, it was, what did the victim say?
The question is, what did he say? But my objection is that the man spoke in Spanish. The witness cannot.
He testified he spoke in English.
Well, I think the question is vague then. Just what the man said in English to this witness is all that I believe he can testify to.
Do you speak Spanish, Mr. Carver?
No.
Well, then, you will just be able to testify as to what the victim said to you in English.
That's fine.
Do you understand that?
I do.
The objection is overruled. You may proceed.
What is it that he told you?
The victim said that he and his girlfriend were walking northbound toward the alley behind the grocery store. As they started walking through, the defendant and another subject confronted them and wanted to challenge him to a fight.
Okay.
The victim said they hit him up, which meant they wanted to fight him.
What happened subsequently?
He expressed he didn't want to fight, at which time the defendant threw the first punch and struck Mr. Castro in the side of the head.
Okay, and was that with his hand open or a fist or what?
With a fist.
Okay, what was the next thing that happened, if anything, that the victim articulated?
Mr. Castro started protecting himself and fighting back, at which time the second subject had a heavy chain and began striking him across his back and head.
That second subject would be another gang member, correct?
That's correct.
What else was reported to you?
Mr. Castro said he was able to knock the chain out of the guy's hand, but that then he ran back to the apartment located nearby, which is a place where another West Coast gang member resides.
Who is that?
He goes by the moniker Smokey. He is a new person to the membership. I can't recall his name now. I would have to review the investigative report to get his name.
We will move on. If your recollection is refreshed, just interrupt me anytime.
Thank you.
You said that Mr. Castro observed somebody?
Right, he saw them run to that apartment.
What did he say happened next, if anything?
As the fight continued, he saw other gang members approaching.
Objection, no first-hand knowledge as to the characterization of other gang members.
Well, I'll say 3 other subjects then.
Objection sustained.
Well, did he tell you who he saw approaching?
Yes, 3 other subjects.
Okay.
3 males.
Who were the other men?
He knew them by face. They have all hit him up before, but he couldn't tell me the names.
Did any of the subjects have anything in their hands?
One had a large stick. One was armed with, or had, what the victim estimates to be a 40-ounce beer bottle.
What happened next, if anything?
Well, Mr. Castro knew that he was outnumbered. He and his girlfriend began running away to prevent further assault, further injury.
Did you subsequently interview the girlfriend of the victim?
Yes, I did.
What did she tell you, Officer Carver?
Basically, the story was the same. She told me that she felt she had to also run because she too has been hit up by the gang before.
No further questions at this time.
Counsel, do you have any cross-examination?
Yes, just briefly, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Davis.
Officer Carver, isn't it true that when you spoke to Mr. Castro, he spoke in Spanish and Jill Parks then translated for you?
Mr. Castro can speak and communicate. When I am interviewing someone, I want to make real sure they can talk to me.
Isn't it true you wrote a police report in this matter?
Yes.
You wrote it at the time of or right after the incident?
Yes.
Isn't it true you said in your police report that Jill Parks translated the victim's comments from Spanish to English for you? That's what you wrote in the police report, right?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Castro, is he also a gang member?
Yes.
That's not the same gang you are alleging the defendant belongs to?
No, they are rival gangs.
So the victim has criminal convictions, isn't that true?
Yes.
And what convictions are you aware of that he has?
I believe he has a conviction for stealing a car. I believe that's what he is currently on probation for.
The victim is on probation?
I think so.
I am going to object and move to strike as hearsay. The conviction is hearsay unless there is written proof.
It goes to the credibility of the informant.
Do you have personal knowledge of his criminal record?
Not personal knowledge, no, sir. I am not quite sure which way that case went down.
If this were a trial and the prosecutor were offering evidence and the defense was trying to impeach a witness, it would be required that the question about prior convictions be asked in good faith. But that's primarily because the jury is there, and you don't want to have that brought out in front of a jury unless there is some basis for it. Since this is a prelim, I think I will just overrule the objection.
Thank you.
Certainly the victim's history is relevant, so I will overrule the objection.
Thank you.
Now, have you investigated crimes before involving gangs in which members of a gang have been found to be victims of the crime that occurred?
I am not really sure I understand your question. If you could please ask me again.
Certainly. There are some cases when people are members of a gang and are victims of crimes of violence. Isn't that true?
That's true.
Okay, so the fact that someone who is a gang member is engaged in an altercation doesn't mean that person is an instigator as opposed to the victim of the offense, right?
Calls for legal conclusion.
Sustained.
But in your opinion as a gang expert, you would agree that gang members, people who are in gangs, may in fact be victims of violence by other people. Isn't that true?
Of course.
A gang member may have to defend himself in an assault by another person, right?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Sustained.